Hello, welcome back. Thank you for tuning in to the Rhythmic Resonance Podcast. This is your host, TR, and this week I sat down with that kid Nova. Cayden is a local producer from Pryor, Montana, whose smooth soul beats and apparent influences translate seamlessly into his artistry. From growing up on the res to having a genuine love and knowledge of hip-hop, Cayden stands out amongst the crowd with his creative edge and honest energy. He hit me up a few days before the weekend and said that he was coming through to Missoula, so we met for the first time at Area 41 and chopped it up with Mellow Mike from around 10 p.m. till 2 a.m. and then decided to record the episode, and it was a much-needed conversation. It was truly a blessing to be able to connect with him after a few years of listening to his beats, and I'm excited to see what he does in the future with his creativity. But before I say too much, here's That Kid Nova on the Rhythmic Resonance Podcast, episode number 7 at Area 41 Collective. So, where'd you grow up?
I grew up from I grew up in Pryor. I kind of just stayed there till maybe like 3rd grade. And then like 3rd grade, I moved to Billings. So then I became like a pure like urban native. You know what I mean? Urban Indian kid. Like I was a token Indian kid in school. Dude, I got my arm broken when I first went to school there. So they were like, oh, can we sign your cast? I'm like, dude, you guys didn't even like bother to learn my name. Like y'all just wanted to come sign my cast. Yeah. I grew up in Pryor and then Billings. Billings was pretty cool. Yeah. It was a different perspective than just being on the reservation, you know. All the time. Well, you know, living on the res is like, hey, we're going to Billings, and for some families it might be every day, you know. For some it's every weekend. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's not that far. Yeah. But I would say res life, you know, hanging out with everybody that's like my cousin, you know what I mean? Yeah. Being shit kids. Like I couldn't do that in Billings. Like when we were younger. We used to ride our skateboards around town and try to do heel flips and shit, you know? Yeah. And, we were crazy back then, man. We used to flip off, like, BIA, you know, be little shit kids, and we'd run back to our house. Like, we were brave. And so I realized I couldn't do that in Billings, you know? I had to be respectful. I had to be a good kid. And for the most part, though, that's how I was raised. I was raised with old people, you know, my elders. Yeah. So they taught me a lot about self-control, basically, essentially, you know, at a young age. Basically just grew up res, grew up urban Indian, and then high school came. So then I was there till probably sophomore year in Billings. Then we moved back to the res. And so that was another culture shock too. Yeah. That was a whole different culture shock. You know, I came back from a big, I guess the biggest city in Montana. You know, that school. Yeah. Going back to the res, and then all the people I grew up with as a kid are like, oh, you came from this school. You know what I mean? Like you think you're better than us. You know what I mean? I'm like, dude, for sure. Like, no, like that's not
I'm
how
still the same. Exactly. Same person.
Exactly. Yeah. So that was different for me, but it also helped me grow a bit too, you know, because I was like, hey, we're all in the same boat here now. I was like, I might have moved back, but I'm not any different than y'all, you know?
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
Hell yeah.
What were you like? I mean, you had mentioned kind of like kicking it with the homies, right? Being crazy around town. What were like things that you were into other than that, you know, when you were hanging out or just doing you?
Trying to sneak onto my uncle's Xbox and play Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. Like, that was the goal. But Dude, I was big into dinosaurs. Like,
Really?
I was like real big into dinosaurs.
Okay.
Yeah, I was
Okay.
like sitting there, like, yeah, this is the Pachycephalosaurus. You know, and the kids are like, what? You know, I'm like, yeah, like I'm very proud of it.
Sure.
Yeah, it was very odd. I was really into dinosaurs, bro. I wanted to be a goddamn paleontologist.
That's dope, though.
Yeah.
The paleontology stuff is like,
Dude, especially in the state here.
yeah,
it's
there's
lit.
so much.
Y'all was just talking about Judith, right? Like Judith Basin, dude. That's
Yeah.
got a lot of digs there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Hell
yeah.
Hell yeah. Tony Hawk, that was a big thing, bro. Like all the kids, they didn't have Tony Hawk, so they had like NBA Street Ball, EA Street Ball, whatever the fuck that
That's
is.
what I
Yeah.
grew up on,
Yep.
bro. I love, yeah.
They was playing that. I get my ass torn up in that, so I would not play it. And they would come over like, yeah, let's all play Tony Hawk. So we did, and I'd be sitting there getting like 2 million point combos for no reason at all, just sitting there just grinding, manualing everything, and they're just like, yeah, dude, we can't play this game with you anymore. Like, it's not fair.
No, there's always that like one homie who was good at one game,
That
and
was,
then the other homie was good at the other game, and then
Exactly.
like you never wanted to play against each other because it was a
not at
mess.
all. Yeah, there used to be shit ton of like the housings, new housings, like over in Pryor. A bunch of them would come over, and I remember we used to have a trampoline. If you had a trampoline, you were famous on the res. So one time there's like 8 people came over. Mom was like, "Oh, cool, you have all your friends over." Like evening came and it was summer,
Yeah.
so that number like doubled. There's like 16 kids trying to jump on the fucking
Yo.
trampoline, bro. This one girl tried to jump on there. As soon as she jumped on there, the whole thing tore.
No.
Yeah, bro. So after that, no trampoline and housings for me. I could just have it out somewhere else. Definitely not in town.
That's fun though. Just like whole neighborhood coming through.
Yeah. It was lit.
Yeah.
It was a good time back then.
What did you, as far as like music wise, like what were you into when you were younger, around that age, or even like what were you
When I was like
into?
maybe like 4 or 5, my mom and them was real into like Biggie, and my uncle was real into like Woo and like 3-6 and shit like that.
Yeah.
And all they would let me listen to was Eminem for some reason. I don't know why at all. Dude. I was like, why? What makes this guy any better than,
It's like
what?
twice as vulgar in some instances.
I'm saying, but I think that like desensitized a lot of us listening to Eminem.
Oh,
like,
for sure.
Yeah, hilarious. So, yeah, that was a big thing. But I think my uncle definitely had an influence in that with his he'd always have a CD, and he'd always do that burn shit on the game.
Oh yeah.
And then he'd play it on like the little speakers that we have at the house. That was cool.
Yeah.
My grandparents, they're very much, my grandpa's like I don't know, he's a traditional guy, so I never heard him listen too much, but my grandma was really into soul, so she likes gospel, soul.
Yeah.
Like to this day it's nice because I get to have conversations with her about certain artists, you know what I mean?
Totally.
And there's some she ain't like never heard of.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's cool. Like some Cheryl Mason shit, you know what I mean? Or like newer groups like The Last Sinceres or like The Sacred Souls.
Yeah,
like,
dude, The
put them on
Sacred.
to people like that.
Yeah.
It's very it's nice. It's wholesome.
Yeah.
Especially in the state. It's like saying, hey, this music's like from your era, but it's today.
And there's people who are like passionate about
Exactly.
creating it, making it, and even like keeping it going.
Right,
like continuing to listen to
Right,
it.
like El Michelle's affair. You know what I mean? He's a big one, big person for that. Yeah, that's mostly who I've been kind of influenced by. I never like necessarily got into hip hop till I was maybe middle school.
Okay.
Middle school, I had a fucking Outkast shirt I'd always loved to wear to school.
Yeah.
Jizza, Liquid Swords, that was big. Bobby Digital, for me that was big because I was like RZA, like especially as producers, we always liken ourselves to RZA. He did it all, you know what I mean?
For
He could
sure.
DJ, he could MC the whole 9 yards.
Yeah.
So I always liked RZA in that aspect too, but his shit's dope. Helter Skelter, that was a weird one.
Okay.
What's that one? La Flor, La Fla, Leshkoshka or something like that.
Mm.
Yeah, that one was pretty hard with Rock and Sean Price. I was bumping that a lot. Weirdly, I was into Sean Price, friend with Sean Price. You know, trying to think. A lot of Flying Lotus. You know, a lot
dude,
of
Flying Lotus is wild.
Dude, yeah, Flying Lotus and Gambino. Gambino is so weird.
100%.
Yeah, Gambino was odd in high school. I was just a weird kid.
No.
Bumping Gambino, you know what I mean?
Totally.
There's that era where we were listening to Frank Ocean, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like Nostalgia Ultra, that era. That's when I was getting into like Gambino.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I still bump him like it's not like I'm still in high school. He's still dope.
It was just like one of those things where it was kind of a different sound a little bit, you know?
Right.
It was just like not the stuff that we might have been used to listening to.
Yeah.
It was very I don't know, I don't want to say like experimental, but it was definitely like in a different like place.
Yeah.
Than a lot of the mainstream stuff.
Right. And he was like acting. You know what I mean? He's an actor, so I was like, I gotta figure this guy out. You know, start listening to like his fucking royalty tapes, all that shit. I was really into him in high school, and then with the Flying Lotus, that kind of turned into a opened up a whole new realm of music.
Totally.
You know, I'm like, why is Flying Lotus so weird? You know what I mean? Then I'm looking at influences. Then we get our Dillas. You know what I mean? We get our other odd music, Sun Ra, you know, very
digging
odd
up
jazz.
the roots.
Yeah, very odd.
Yes.
Set of influences. So I was like, okay. And then sure enough, I think that's kind of where just hip hop came into the mix.
Yeah.
And my bro, Hanzo, his dad, he was a big kind of influence on our music taste too.
Okay.
You know what I mean? He'd always be putting him onto things, and he'd put me onto it, you know. And then down the road, we're like, what's hip hop? Then he's like telling us about the 5 elements of it all. You know what I mean? Like b-boying, graffitiing, DJing,
breaking.
Yep, the whole 9.
Totally.
We were big into that. We're like, yo, let's be some native artists that, you know, that still do this hip hop shit, you know.
Totally. Oh yeah.
But it got to a point where I was like, you know, I like what we listen to. You know what I mean? I like listening to Ninth Wonder beats and shit and just chilling out, you know. It's cool. That's cool with me. But yeah, not too much crazy influence. A lot of it was self-discovery, I think, over time. Definitely.
As you just like kind of sit there and you're like, all right, well, I need to find like something new to listen to.
Right.
And then you hear one guy or one group or artist, and then you hear like they worked with somebody, and then you check them out, and then it kind of just takes you down this like rabbit trail, rabbit hole of like all these different artists and like all these different producers, and then you're like, it just opens up the floodgates.
Yeah, definitely. Credits, looking at credits, you know.
Totally.
But I think if we're talking making music wise, I think it was like a Christmas. I was still in high school. I was probably like a sophomore. My grandma was like, what do you want for Christmas? You know, it's so weird. I was like, just get a turntable. You know, I'll figure the rest out. So she copped the turntable. Yeah. Then that's when I started like digging for records, and then realizing there's things on the inside that I can look at to further expand my knowledge on it, you know. Yeah.
And just the experience of like listening to vinyl records and stuff. It was like totally different than hopping on YouTube or something or listening on the radio, you know. It's like a personalized package from the artist to you, the listener.
Yeah. And like with those experiences within that, it was always first record I ever got, Danger Doom in the Mask. Was it Danger Mouse? Danger Mouse?
Dude,
Doom,
Danger Mouse.
The Mask, yes.
Oh, man.
Dude, the Aqua Teen skits on there just had me hooked. And what's that shit? What does he say on there? What the fucking... When he tricks him into saying, what is it? Sofa King. Yeah, Sofa King. Yeah, bro.
It's a great song.
Dude, Sofa King goes hard. That was like the first record I ever like bought though, and just sat there and was like, oh, this is a cool turntable. Then I copped the mixer, and then I got the 2 audio outs that go into an aux.
Yeah.
Just play beats on one side, then just get the scratch vinyl on the other.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a real kind of quick, how would you say it? Crash course?
Yeah.
Crash course in it, yeah. Quick
Totally.
crash course. Yeah. That's kind of where it all started though.
And when was that? Like what kind of like timeline, I guess?
I was a sophomore in high school.
In high school.
Yeah, that was a long time ago. I didn't even want to make beats or anything like that then, you know? It was just listening to those, and I was like, what can we do with this turntable here that I don't have another turntable, so I'm not scratching,
Sure.
you know?
Sure.
I seen that cool video of Q-Tip sitting there looping a sample on the vinyl. I thought that was the coolest thing ever, so I would just sit there and try that for the longest time, and once I finally knocked it, I was like, okay, all right. I thought I was done. You know what I mean? Done with that. I was like, that's cool.
I got the loop.
Yeah. What's next?
Sure.
And then that kind of just turned into, you know, my bro Hans was turning like, hey, you should make beats. You know what I mean? That'd be cool. And I was like, oh, yeah, sure. So waited a while. I went to college here in Missoula. I didn't necessarily want to get into DAWs, you know what I mean, Ableton and all that.
Sure.
So I thought the MPC 2000 would have been just fine.
Yeah.
I copped it not knowing that I can't just get, you know, so I got to export that somehow.
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah.
So I'm sitting here buying laptops and shit, trying to bring that in. And then
Totally.
It was just messy for me, but it was dope to learn on there. You know what I mean?
100%.
The whole 9 yards.
Yeah.
I think my Uncle Chris definitely had a hand in, you know, the MPC is dope. You know what I mean?
Dude, it is
dope. So I was like, all right, cool. Yeah, sure. That's I'll try it out. And sure enough, that was definitely a fun tool to use in terms of making beats.
It's just, it changes like the whole process and flow.
Right.
You know, because
right.
doing click and drag is,
you can visualize it, you know, sequencing. Yeah. I'm sitting there counting down when this is, you know, this next sequence is going to come in for the beat, you know. Yeah.
And then you're playing it and you're like, you're chopping it.
That's the shit I miss about the MP the most is chopping it up into each pad, you know, time stretching, fucking with the EQ and the weird little mixer that they have on there.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Do you still use the MP at all?
I don't.
No?
You might have to start up the skies or something. We can get it working.
100%.
Yeah.
That's great. So you were kind of getting into it a little bit more. You were getting a little bit more interested in just the production, the creation, that kind of stuff. Yeah. And then, like, when did you kind of decide that this was something that you wanted to pursue?
Probably when I like made my first beat on the MP, that I was, you know, genuinely like, to me this is done. You know what I mean? To me this is a beat. I would call it a beat. Mm-hmm. I was so excited, bro. Yeah. Like I was sitting there, my room for some reason was burning with incense. I was trying to cover up weed smell in my auntie's house with incense. So I was sitting there blowing smoke out the window, making beats.
Yeah.
That was that for me was probably the moment I was like, okay, let's try this out.
Yeah.
Then just the influence of all the newer producers now coming out definitely have a hand in influencing me, you know.
Oh yeah.
The sound I was into at the time. That was when Griselda started popping. So I was listening to, you know, Fly God on repeat. Yeah. You know what I mean? That was the album for me. I was like, man, this guy, he raps crazy, but this production is insane.
Yeah.
You know, who did it? It's just this white guy with glasses, you know, looking nerdy. And I'm like, oh, who's that? Oh, that's Derringer, you know? Like,
dude, Derringer's
a beast, bro. I don't know what it is about white guys, you know, white guys and their producing skills for people, man. They just be coming up with the scariest shit known to man. It's like Alchemist, bro. It's like a middle-aged man from LA, like making stuff for the grimiest people in hip hop.
Yeah,
definitely. yeah, that sound though really kind of pushed that oh, this is dope. You know what I mean? This is dope. Like I can, I guess, resonate with the sound in a sense. You know, I don't know about subject matter, but
for sure
the sound, yeah, definitely.
just that ominous, like dark, like those dark
and then
beats.
On another note too, you know, you have your soulful people. You got your Ninth Wonders. You got all types of people making soul beats. You know, and it's like I like soul beats, but I don't just want to chop up soul and add some very saturated and compressed kicks and snares. You know what I mean? Like over compressed on the shit. I was like, how do you do this to make it sound gentle but not very, you know? And then,
There's it's like crisp, but it's not like you're not blowing your decibels, you know, you're not
Dude,
going
I hate
out of
that
this
when
world.
I'm EQing samples, bro. I hate that. I hate that. Yeah, that though, the soul shit definitely had a hand, you know. I would make beats and I was so proud of them. I'd go show my grandma. You know what I mean? I'm like, what do you think? I'm like, is this like heavenly enough? I'm like, you got the ear for that. You know, you might, you know, I get a compliment every now and then that would make my whole day.
Dude,
you know what I mean?
Totally.
Definitely, like, seeing the influence growing up, you know, I was like, what's this kid gonna do? You know, and I like soul shit now. I like making soul beats. Yeah, right now that's definitely where I'm at though, in terms of production, soul,
Straight soul.
Yeah. I know everybody's always wanting. I'm in the studio with, let's do boom bap. You know, I'm like,
Sure.
do you know how many drums I have in my library that I don't want to go through right now? Like they're organized. I don't want to go through them though. Like these guys, this pack sounds different from that. You know what I mean? I ain't gonna fuck with that pack.
Yeah.
You know.
Totally.
But yeah, for the most part, soul samples, you know, not very well known, so I ain't worried about the whole copyright deal.
Sure.
Yeah.
You're just like creating, you know?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And that's the cool part is, I mean, there is avenues, you know, things like Bandcamp where you can upload things to Bandcamp as like a mixtape or like a remix. And then like, you know, people they can support you. You can get paid for it, you know, like any of that stuff. But like ultimately it's kind of that you're just creating what you want to create in like a fearless way, you know, you're not like worried about any of that.
I'm saying, dude, it's like, why should we, you know? Yeah, definitely. I have a few things working on right now.
Yeah.
With my bro Hanzo.
Okay.
He's got a little project in the works. I'm trying to do some rapping. We'll see how that goes. Yeah, we'll see how that goes.
That's tight, man.
Yeah, it's a very it's a growing process.
Sure.
It's a very honest process. I have to really not like it to continue doing it. Sure. You know what I mean?
Okay.
I have to make the bad shit to hear the good shit.
Yep. Yes. It's a part of the process.
Exactly.
And a part of the growth, you know?
But
like even when you do rattle off like a couple solid things, it's just like that's the boost that keeps you going and the boost that's like, okay.
Right.
Is this like a new endeavor though? Or have you kind of always had that in the back of your mind that this was something that you would eventually wanted to get to?
I always have, but for the most part, I don't like rapping like just for, you know, lyricist's sake. I like talking about, you know, sense of self, you know, where I'm at, everyday things.
Would you say like more spoken word-esque things in a way?
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, more spoken word-esque things. The last thing I ever probably rapped on was Hanzo's project. We were just youngins messing around in the garage, you know.
Yeah.
Mellow put me onto the Ableton Push too, so
beautiful.
I was hooked on that thing for a minute.
Yeah.
Especially in terms of not necessarily mixing, but just making tracks, you know. Now I think we're a little more polished. You know, we've grown a little bit. We've lived a little bit in our lives to where I feel like we're pretty confident about doing this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it translates well because you can hear it in the music, you know, and all that stuff. It just comes with time. The more that you dedicate yourself to it, the more that you can build up that confidence, it grows exponentially once
Word.
you just keep going at it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, hell yeah, man. Of course.
So were there any things that were like going against the grain? As far as like, were there any struggles that you felt like you experienced just kind of creating or pursuing creating, or has it been like a very like straight and narrow road for you?
I think no matter what life has given me to overcome, I've always felt a way I've always found a way to always continue creating, you know, even if I'm down and low.
Yeah,
you know,
for
it's
sure.
important to do that, I think, and also become consistent with it, because there's periods in time where I won't create for a while. I want to go experience things. I want to travel places.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I
Uh-huh.
want to have dinner with my family. You know what I mean? Have a big meetup, something. And those things, I feel like, find their way into that creativeness. You know, that might not be the intention of what I'm making the beat, you know, but
Sure.
it's what I was feeling that day.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
just simple things. But for the most part, you know, I haven't necessarily stopped making beats. You know what I mean? It's just always been there. You know,
Yeah.
I've always just been creating no matter what life goes on. You
Totally.
know, no matter what is happening, I'm always making beats. Unfortunately.
No,
Unfortunately,
dude.
yeah.
I mean, it's just something that's like, it's always there.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
when you need it too,
right.
you can step a little bit away
Right.
and do that and immerse yourself in that.
It's like loss come in life. I'm still gonna make tracks. You know what I mean?
It's a sacrifice, you know.
I don't want to be bothered. You know,
Right.
I'm feeling great.
Yeah.
Amazing day.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, I'm gonna go and make some beats.
Totally.
Yeah.
That's great, man. That's great. Well, I mean, that's like all you could ask for, you know, is just having that thing there that just gets to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
For sure, man. Where do you want to take it? If you've thought about that. I know sometimes it's hard to like think about like, or like see the finish line, I guess. But like,
Right.
where in your head, like, do you want to take it, or do you want to even take it anywhere?
I think if it's given, I'd definitely take that road. Yeah. But there's also the aspect of, I don't know if I am, you know, but let's find out, you know.
Yeah.
I've never really been afraid to always put out music, you know.
That's great.
Never have been afraid. I think the end goal is just growing, you know, growing in the art too, like always pushing it. I know for me, yeah, I make loops, you know what I mean? I make loops and shit, but for me, I see a little bit of the change in how I construct a beat every now and then, you know.
Right.
I also do think that I just want it to be a everyday thing, you know. It's just comes to me. That's the way it is.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Hell yeah.
That's beautiful though, because it's really regardless of how it comes about, it's still like it's deep.
Right.
Like regardless of you know, even if it's loops, if it's, you know, you're full on writing out your keys in the flex or whatever, in the MIDI, or you know, it's still like that process of creation that you can still do all the time, and regardless of like what comes about.
And it's like some people try to find a reason to like create, you know what I mean? Like,
Totally.
I gotta do it for this, and it's like sometimes we just have to do it regardless, you know. We can see the growth too over time, and it's really, I think it's probably really, really rewarding once you get to that point. But yeah, we'll see what happens.
Yeah. Just being patient with it.
Yeah, I'm in no rush. In no rush at all. Just trying to continue putting out beats. I haven't released nothing recently.
No.
It's just life. I don't feel like I need to right now.
Sure. It's not like the focus necessarily.
Yeah.
Like your life comes first, like living, taking care of you.
Definitely. Before that wasn't the case. You know what I mean?
Totally.
Before having a family and all that, it was always, I'm gonna do beats. You know what I mean?
Right.
I didn't have a place to stay, nothing like that. I was still trying to crank out beats.
Yeah.
That was obsessive and crazy work to me.
Totally.
To where now I can look back and be like, that was okay. I can learn from that. You know what I mean? Let's not be in that position again. Let's continue, prospering, and within our whatever we do every day, right? I think the growth is the most important thing for me though right now, definitely.
How have you felt like you have grown, in the experience, I guess, of music or life, anything like that?
Well, I'm a dad, so my child is like the first thing. You know what I mean? Like first thing, I'm just like, okay, this is what comes first. Where before, I was just making beats, to where now I have something else I'm proud about.
Another responsibility, a part of life.
Yeah. But I think in terms of music wise, I take my time a little bit. I sit there and listen with it. I like chopping up loops to where I feel like it's talking to me.
Yeah.
If that makes any
it does.
Sense.
Yeah.
If it's talking to me or I'm trying to say something with it, you know what I mean? And I think the how some people might look at, my tracks like, oh, this guy's all heartbroken and shit. You know what I mean? When really it's like I'm just doing what the sample's telling me. You know what I mean? I'm doing what this is telling me to do.
You're tuning in.
Exactly.
100%.
Yeah, you gotta stay tuned in. Hell yeah.
Yeah, because there's a lot of noise on the outside, and sometimes just finding something can change it all.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure, man. I guess for like some final thoughts, what advice would you give to a younger artist or just a young person or anybody? I guess we don't have to make it a younger person, but like what advice would you give as someone who's in that process of creation or just living? I know we've kind of highlighted a few things, but like, is there anything that you feel like led to say?
Just be you, man. Just stay true to yourself. Stay authentic. Continue putting out whatever it is you're doing. It's okay to take a step back, and look at it from a different perspective, be it yours or somebody else's. It's totally fine. I just say don't be afraid. Tomorrow, I don't know if that sun's gonna come up tomorrow. Right. At the end of the day, I don't know, but I'm glad I woke up with it this morning. Hell yeah.
I like that. It's true though. It is true. Yeah. It's just valuing like every day. Living each day to the fullest.
Right, any chance I get, I try to wake up with that sunrise, every morning. Just a big thing in my life. I kind of grew up that way. My grandpa always taught me that, the sun comes up, now you're up. Now it's out.
Yeah. The day begins.
Exactly. Hell yeah.
Beautiful, man. I like that.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, man. I appreciate you.
Yeah, dude. It is late, dude.
I know, dude. It's 2 a.m.
I know. I'm over here trying to yo, should we play some beats, bro?
No, man. I appreciate you just hopping on just for a little bit and chatting and talking about your life and experiences, and sometimes it's what I need to hear too. So I appreciate it, man.
I'm grateful to be here, kicking with y'all.
Yeah, it's cool.
Beautiful space here.
It is. It is.
Like it.
Over at Area 41. It's
yeah,
and it's nice to just meet you finally after I feel like.
Well, I don't like going out, bro.
I don't blame you. I don't blame you, dude.
That's why I wear the mask, bro. I like my life, dude.
Yeah.
I like it. I don't like going to the studio. yo, Cayden, you know what I mean? I'm like, bruh, no, not today, not tonight.
No, dude, I appreciate you, and
course,
and thanks for being here.
Hell yeah, man. I'm glad to be here.
Beautiful.
Man. Thank you.
Yeah, man. All right, before I end this episode, I just want to give a special shout out and thank you to everyone who's been so supportive of what I'm trying to do here by documenting this oral history of Montana art and creativity. I really couldn't do it without all of the love, the support, encouragement, whatever it might be, from repost to stories to constructive criticism. It really helps grow this idea and fine-tune it into something that is worth listening to. And so I'm very thankful for everyone who's been a part of it and who will be a part of it in the future. Now comes the part that I find kind of corny, but we're going to do it anyway. If you haven't already, like, comment, and subscribe to the podcast. It really does help a lot with ratings and getting it into new ears and helping more people hear these stories coming out of Montana. So if you haven't already, please go and do that. It is much appreciated. And if you haven't already, go follow Cayden. It is I Am That Kid Nova on Instagram. Go check out his music on Apple Music and Spotify, on those platforms, and you won't be disappointed. Great music, great artist. Very thankful that I had the opportunity to sit down with him and chat. So please go and do that. Appreciate every single one of you. Keep listening, keep supporting local music, and all love. Peace.